Hi guys, Brain here, and welcome to another commentary video. Today I wanted to talk to you about why all of a sudden Nurse hate. Where's all this hate for Nurse coming out of? Like, where's that coming from? Why does everybody hate Nurse now? We've been playing this game for so long, and there's been no other point in DBD's history where Nurse has been as hated as this. Like, she is almost unanimously dunked upon by the community. But there might be a reason for that actually makes a whole lot of sense that I'm actually going to lobby for here in today's video, because I'm going to say it's not actually that crazy that Nurse is getting all the hate she's getting right now, and it's not really quote unquote coming out of nowhere. I feel like we just live in a different time for DBD. Before 2022, DBD was a different place. For the most part, not saying by and large, for the most part, in DBD, when something was broken or overpowered, it seemed like, for the most part, it was just going to stay that way. There was a lot of really crazy, absurd stuff that used to exist in DBD. DS didn't used to turn off for any reason. Spirit could literally win mind games by standing still because her phasing literally didn't have any sort of cue that she was actually phasing, so you just had to guess. So she'd literally win chases just by literally standing still. There was a lot of just like really crazy, absurd stuff in the game that used to exist that was really awful and really terrible to deal with, but whenever we tried to lobby with behavior or try to make behavior change something about it, all that would fall upon deaf ears. And every once in a while we'd get a change. Like, it took us forever of complaining to get a Freddy reworked, and Almo infamously did not believe anything was wrong with Freddy in his previous form. But it used to take like moving a whole mountain to get behavior to even like notice a problem with the game's general balance or design. If something was actually completely miserable and ruined the game's health, it would just be get ignored and just be put on the shelf, and it was kind of just up to essentially whatever behavior felt like changing, and not necessarily what needed to be changed or what the community really desired to be changed. So I think for most of the game's history, what we ended up doing was just kind of like just coping, right? Like we just dealt with it, right? And we made so many like there were many content creators that made videos, and they were just we just said, well, if, you know, Nurse takes a while to learn. She's not as tough as like Billy per se, but like she's pretty tough to learn, so that's okay, right? Copium, you know, we just kind of had to deal with it. So we had to kind of like, you know, keep our heads down and go, well, she's hard to learn, so I guess that's okay, you know, and keep playing the game. Because back in the old days of DBD, it was like, if something was that absurd or broken, but for the most part, I almost said it, for the most part, behavior wouldn't care and just kind of would leave it the way it was. So many bugs and overpowered add-ons and character powers just stayed the way they were for years and years, and so we just had to like survive. We just had to either, like, if you hated those things back in the day, you had one of two options: either you quit the game because it was too frustrating, or you just, you know, found a way to cope with it and just kept playing and enjoying the game in spite of the annoying things that existed inside of it. But in this year, DBD, things really seem to be changing. Like in the past year or so, DBD really has kind of turned a new leaf, and behavior seems to be really listening to community feedback when it comes to things that are unfun or ungreat for game's health. It's really wild, because I know me personally, I've made tons and tons of videos in the past talking about how behavior doesn't listen, behavior doesn't care about the game's health, behavior has no idea what's going on in their game, and I made so many of those videos, but like I haven't made one of those in so long because for the most part they've been trying to take into account the things that we've been worried about and change them. So many killers I've gotten reworks to try and make them better. Spirit, which I named earlier, got a complete rework to actually have counterplay to her power, and now she's actually really fun to play versus and as. So it's wild. It's like we're living in almost a different realm because the behavior just actually does stuff now, and we're definitely seeing that with this mid-chapter change that's coming up. That they literally are looking at that meta that's been in the game for years and years, and going, well, that sucks and that's stupid, so we're going to change that. Which is just like something that, like, if you had told me that they were going to do that in 2020, I just straight up would not have believed you. I'm like, that's not the behavior I know. That's not what they would do. But now they will. Which is just wild, but that's the world we're living in now. We don't live in this dark age anymore, where if something's OP or way too strong, we just leave it there and to fester, and we all just kind of like gotta cope with it, right? Things will actually get changed now. And I think that's like the primary reason Nurse is getting the hate that she's getting right now, is because Nurse Okay, so here's the deal. Nurse has always been OP. Nurse has always been the strongest character in the game by a wide margin. Like, even Blight can't go through walls despite even Nurse can match his mobility the same way. So it's just like, even to her next compared character, Blight, she's still leagues above Blight. She is way better than most, even the next best characters in the game. Nurse has always been way too strong. The only counterplay to Nurse has always been, I hope she's bad. I hope she's a learning nurse and not a good nurse. And especially tied with when they start using stuff like Starstruck, it's just like, it comes down to just like hoping. Hoping that the person that you're facing off against is bad. And I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. Maybe this should be its own video someday, so I actually have this concretely somewhere. My philosophy for killer design is, you should not have a killer whose only counterplay is, I hope they're bad. If the only counterplay to a killer is, I hope they're bad, that's bad design, because that's not interactive. These two sides interact. Matter of fact, the most fun part of this game is the chase, is when the two sides interact. And if the only thing you can do in chase is just hope the other player is bad, that's not counterplay and that's not interactivity. It's just not. But like, she's always been this way, which is why a lot of people are confused, because people are like, why are people complaining about Nurse now? Because she's always been this way, which you're right, it always has been that way. But we live in an age now where things will actually change. We live in an age with a behavior that'll actually go in and rework killers that need the fix. If they need the nerf, if they need the buff, they'll go in and change these things based on the best interests of the game health. So Nurse is now just brought into that conversation, and rightfully so, because, well, she's been the strongest and way too strong for a really long time, and a lot of us just, you know, in the meantime, just did our best to cope and live with it because we only had that option. But now we have the option to levy to get her changed because the company is now listening to us, which is, once again, like I said earlier, not something if you told me that in 2020, I would ever believe. But hey, here we are. So I think that's the main reason Nurse is being looked at and hated by most of the community right now, is because most of the community understands now that behavior is willing to listen and willing to make changes based on the best interest of the game health. And Nurse has just always been way too strong and incredibly strong. And finally, there seems to be like this kind of like awakening where we're like, hey, let's keep going. Let's not just nerf Dead Hard. Let's not just nerf Spear. Let's keep going. Let's cover all the things that we've just had to like deal with and do our best with for so long, and actually get these things more in line with a better game balance. So yeah, what do you think, friends? Do you think that Nurse is way too overpowered, or do you think she's fine? Let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, that's going to be it for today's video, friends. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all. And hopefully I'll see you in tomorrow's video. But if I do not, I will see you when I see you, friends. Goodbye.